Hey, hey. Today we're going to have an interesting topic today. Today we're going to be talking about a little bit about the Madamas um, and ancestors. We're going to cover ancestors first and archangels and the importance of that in Hoodoo. Hello, Lady Ra. So we're going to be talking about the importance of that. My name is Miss Penny. Um, we have a Patreon community over there where we break all of that down. Hey, how you doing, Lady Rod? We break all of this down and give you all the components to Hoodoo to amplify your magic, and help you understand the spiritual science behind Hoodoo. And it's a place where we can meet, share our experiences, share work, share ideas, get support, and then learn Hoodoo the right way. Okay. We have a uh, workshop that's going to be coming up on the 27th. So if you're interested in learning more about the tarot, that first workshop is going to be everything about the tarot. Okay. And we're going to do it. It's going to be a series of them, maybe about 4 or 5 series of workshops to help you understand the tarot. So if you're interested in a Hoodoo community that supports you, that encourages you to create your own workings, that gives you a great foundation on your Hoodoo journey, then Spiritual Roots Hoodoo community is the community for you. Okay, so let me jump in here. Uh, the first thing I wanted to talk about is Hoodoo. Hoodoo isn't all about fast spells, instant results, although you can get that. It's about reverence and accountability. When you venerate your ancestors, you're staying rooted in your lineage. You're not just casting spells, you're healing generations. To understand that about Hoodoo. That's where we're at right now with Hoodoo. It's not about just getting spells. I know you see a lot of stuff here. Not knocking any of that. Wonderful work. But there's a lot of more other components to Hoodoo than just use healing your life, working on your ancestral lineage, breaking all those cycles. Your ancestors carry your family's spiritual DNA, the patterns, the wounds, the wisdom, the resilience that live in your bloodline. They know what needs to be healed and what gifts you came here to use. Okay, working with you help. Working with them helps break out, generation curses, childhood trauma that was inherited or whatever happened to you. And once you start looking at that childhood trauma, that's a trip. You find out it's an ongoing theme in your family. Okay. Understand recurring life challenges, strengthen your intuition and insight. So, again, when you start working with your ancestors, a lot of insight is going to come in, especially when you start doing shadow work. Okay. A lot of people want to skip that and get straight to the good stuff. Yeah, you can do the good stuff, but you're gonna have to, there's no way around it. You got to do some heavy lifting too, and that's working on you. Before working with any deity, saints, spirits, or root work, traditional Hoodoo teaches that you must first connect with your bloodline, your elevated ancestors. Yes, that's your foundation. That's the core of your work. We want to run off and work with, other deities and everything before we even got right with our ancestors. They gonna be your intercession. They gonna guide you. Okay. And we teach that. I'm gonna bang that in your head over there in spiritual roots. You probably gonna get upset with me. She gonna like that. You're gonna be like, dang, she always talking about talk to the ancestors. Dang, she always telling us to do shadow work. Dang, yes, because that's the correct way. That's the core way. I'm not here to stroke your ego. That's not what I'm here. That's not what the ancestors got me here for. Okay. The ancestors got me here to help you connect with them to make your magic strong and help you understand the spiritual science behind hoodoo. It's not just about spells. It's not about that. It's not just about that. That's somebody commercializing spirituality. Make it look like you ain't got to put nothing in. Again, we starting that that Christian type of behavior again. Like our stuff don't stink. We got some stuff that stink. We got to work on. Okay. If it stank, work on it. You know when you got some stinking stuff going on with you. Oh, thank you, whole Lotus Grace. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So you got to get that stinking stuff, and work on it. And stop trying to avoid how you feel. Process that stuff, sit with it, be angry. Question why you feel jealous. Question why you feel like you got to, uh, pick a fight or go to every fight you invited to. Look at you. A lot of people don't want to look at themselves. They want to look at everybody else, judge everybody else, and look at. But see, if you look at you, you'll start gaining some fruits of spirit. You'll start learning what compassion it really is, and forgiveness really is. But if you ain't looking at yourself, you're gonna always be pointing at everybody else, and your mouth just gonna be, going, and your tongue just gonna be wagging, and you just gonna be leaking power. That's all you're doing is leaking power. Okay, leaking energy, messing up your auric field. Okay. Again, you need to it's important to understand any of these workers that you're doing to understand the kind of energies that you're working with, so you can make mindful choices in your magic. Okay. And there's many types of ancestors. You got lineage ancestors. This may be your direct family members. Okay. These are blood ancestors that connected. Now, the way I break down ancestor veneration over there, because I want you to be safe when you're doing ancestral veneration. A lot of people not breaking this down for you. You just putting folks on there, family members on there, probably didn't even like you. And you think they're gonna help you once they passed over? Absolutely not. That ain't gonna happen. Okay. So we go to our most oldest elevated ancestors. Then you got ancestors of the spirit. They're not biological, they related, but they're connected through your shared spiritual work. Okay. See, this ancestors veneration go out broad when you start looking at it. So once you start understanding what ancestors truly are, they're not just family, DNA, bloodlines. They're not just that. And it's gonna get as we go on, this might make a little more sense to you, but we break it all the way down there in each section and step over there in our Hoodoo community on Patreon. We break all this down so you can understand ancestors. It's not just your family, so you can understand the vastness of the spiritual support you have when you get yourself in alignment. And shadow work does that. Again, you're here to raise the frequency of your ancestors. That's what you're here to do. You're not here to vibrate on that same frequency. You're here to heal for the whole entire family. What's the Hoodoo page link? You can find it in my bio on the link tree. Mm, it's chamomile tea. It's fire with this lemon, y'all. I'm on my tea today. Doing something a little right today. Okay, so they're connected to your spiritual work. They are the ones who perform the initiations. Okay, so when you truly on this hoodoo path and you're doing your shadow work, it's gonna feel like initiation. And it should feel like that. Your ancestral connection is gonna get cranked up. Again, these rituals that we have over there, I encourage you to do, should be getting that ancestors communication with your ancestors real crunk up. Okay. This can include spiritual mentors, godparents, elders who pass spiritual teachings or traditions. Okay. And you'll see that too when you start working closer with the saints or the archangels. Okay. We have ancestors of place, land, spirits of the land you live and where your people live. These are include indigenous spirits, enslaved people who died on the land, or caretakers of the environment. Now you'll see me too when the people tell me, "Hey, I don't have enough space at home or whatever." I encourage you to go outside, and if you can go outside, I would do every ritual outside. Okay, or erect the altar outside and do some work that way. Again, connecting with those spirits of the land, our most elevated ancestors, especially going 2,000 years back or more. Honoring them can bring protection and grounding. My ancestors got to me the other day, last night. It's like you need to go, you need to ground. Get out your head. We already said what we gonna do. That's what that is. You done the work, get grounded in it. Then you have culture ancestors. You have culture ancestors. Think about artists, leaders, healers, warriors from your culture who shaped your people's history, who shaped our history. So you have culture ancestors as well. We're not just talking about family, we're talking about a wide scope of ancestors. Okay, you get to choose who you hey Anglos, hello I Thomas, hello DD Alchemy. So again, you get a chance to choose. You're not going out there raw dogging it and just listening to stuff and start putting family members on your altar that don't need to be on there. Some of them passed away, they were unhealed. You want to start off with good ancestors, we need to raise our vibration and our consciousness to be able to communicate with these elevated ancestors and our spirit guides. Okay. These ancestors will help you reclaim your heritage and your pride. Again, we're going into talking about High John the Conqueror. We've been talking about him. We just talked about the Seven Sisters. Very interesting story, especially when you go in and read Howard Hyatt's book. What is the name of that book? Hoodoo, Root Work, Conjuring, Witchcraft, something like that. But it's a 1,000-page book with a variety of workings in there that our ancestors shared, some of their stories too. So there's a lot of history in that book. And we talk about that book and we provide you with the book. Okay, really helps you understand the working. There's workings in there. And then you get a chance to read about their experiences. And you have elevated ancestors, wise ancestors, ancestors who evolve spiritually and offer guidance, healing, and protection. Okay. And then you have ancestors of professions, which we just kind of talked about that. Ancestors who practice the same trade, craft, or spiritual path as a healer, midwives, root workers, musician, etc. And then we have infinity ancestors. You have some ancestors that has just adopted you, that have a connection with you. There is no ties to you whatsoever. They just have affinity for your bloodline. You may honor them because of the energy of message they left behind. Okay. So again, when we talk about ancestors, it gets wide. It gets wide. Even when you go to another country, I think it was I and another member. I think they was a subscriber, but they were talking about when they go to a different land, they honor those spirits on that land. I'm doing great, Shaquita. How you doing, baby? And so they honor the ancestors. Hi, Shamika Rivera. So they honor the ancestors on that land too. Again, because those are your elders. Those are your elders on that land under those ancestors. Everything you eat and come from that land, most likely, if especially if it's fruits and vegetables. Again, it's coming from that land. So thank those ancestors for providing sustenance. They did something right because the people there are still alive on that land. Okay. And for the most part, it's important to understand. I bang this in people's head because hoodoo is ancestor centered. Okay. It is not Christian centered. It's ancestral centered. And that can go back thousands and thousands of years. Okay. And you'll see too, I would mention it, ancestors and angels work together. Ancestors would nudge, and it happened in reverse for me. I worked with angels first before I even worked with ancestors. Okay. And then once I had worked with angels, once I connected with the ancestors, it was almost they made themselves present and known. You'll know. Again, I had worked with archangels for a very long time. Okay. And they will be nudging you, whatever you got going on, whatever healing that you need. Your ancestors want you to be working with those angels, not just for yourself, but the entire bloodline. You have some, the elevated ancestors feel just like angels. Sometimes you can't tell them apart. You can't tell the angels from the ancestors sometimes, especially when you start looking at these saints and things. The feeling that you get when you come in contact with them. Lightning struck a pole right beside my car one day, going home for work. I got a piece of the wood. Oh, I know that's right. That can help in a lot of workings. Okay. I like seeing things from our ancestors in these museums. I like seeing things like that too, because you get a chance to travel back in time, especially when you read about them. When I read their stories, especially with the things that we share over there, it really gives you a better perspective of the ancestors. It struck and I poured libations on their land and left the offering. I know that's right, Shaquita. So again, honoring those ancestors, going out to the land, pouring libations. We have a beautiful breakdown of libations over there. I dropped a lecture over there, and I talked about libations and how important it is. It's a sacred act. If you can't do anything else, get yourself out there and start doing libation rituals to your ancestors. You can instantly come in contact with them like that. That's right, Shaquita. It's called respect. And so again, uh, helping you understand your ancestors, connect with them, learning their history, reading their stories. Again, we connect with them on an intimate way and get to understand hoodoo from their perspective, which makes your work better. Okay. But you out here grabbing stuff and you don't know stuff and you ain't sat down and know your folks. That's so disrespectful. That's so disrespectful. You ain't got a chance to get down here and know your folks. It's only so far you gonna get with it until you need the ancestors. I don't care how powerful you think you is. This is how this works. Thank you, Caesar A. This is how this works. You need to be talking to your ancestors. And you probably gonna get mad at me up there over there because that's the first thing when you tell me you can talk to somebody, some other deity or some deity come into your dream and Imma say, "Did you talk to your ancestors? Did you do a reading on that?" You need to be telling them to guide you on that. Don't do nothing outside of that. I don't care if that is coming up. Wait until your ancestors do a reading on it, do a divination on it, and see if that happens. Usually, if you do a divination on it, what I have seen, the ancestors will start bringing these deities in your dreams. They'll bring them in there. You tell them who you ask them And sometimes they won't. They know what's best for you. Not pouring liquor, right? It depends on what your ancestors like. You know, some people pour water that attract cool ancestors. Depending on what your intentions is, you can pour liquor. If it's whiskey, gin, vodka, but we break that down of all the meanings of liquor. I think one that really interests me, when they were talking about liquor, one of our ancestors, what was the man name? Was it Robert Johnson? I don't know if it was Robert Johnson, but it was one blues player, musician, and he was talking about how he used to go down to Aunt Caroline die, and he would talk to his ancestors, and they liked it that Ansonet, it's called Ansonet liquor. I'm in Thailand right now, Morgan. Hi, Morgan. And he was talking about how he was oh, you said that land was white. But he was talking about, yep, moonshine too. But he was talking about how he would go down there and get that liquor and how he was working his mojo with the liquor. So I thought that was very interesting. I was like, I've never heard of that liquor anymore, before. And then I'd start doing some research on it, and I was finding out that spirits were highly attracted to that liquor. It's very rare and kind of hard to find now. Hi, Teresa Brooks. Been on this journey knowingly for 2 years, some days, and I get manic about my spirituality. One day at a time, one day at a time. It's a journey. It is a journey. So again, they might have you working with the archangels, invoking them, and the way they're going to speak to you when you come in contact with them, they instantly start elevating your intellect. If you're doing the shadow work in order to get these messages, again, your thoughts are going to have to be cleared out a little bit. Not a little bit, but be working on that. Okay, because they're there to encourage you and help you shift. High time stamping army, they're there to help you elevate and protect you as well. Okay. So again, they'll help you again elevate in consciousness because that's what we're trying to heal. And most times when spirits are going to communicate with you, it's going to be through your emotions and your third eye and through your mind. It's going to be sort of like I like to call this telepathic. Or you might have a feeling. Some people go by feeling. They just feel a certain way. But again, we need to go ahead and start working with those angels to improve our psychic abilities and start heightening our frequency. Okay. A lot of our ancestors work with Saint Michael or Archangel Michael. And again, uh, we're looking at our spiritual allies as well. In Hoodoo, spiritual strength is everything. You must be grounded, protected, and spiritually awake. Once we get you started on rituals and break everything down as a science so you can understand what hoodoo really is and why we do this work. You can't just go and do any magic and put in no and have to put in no work. Everybody put in their work. If you put in the time in the work, you get results. That's how hoodoo work. It's not no fast spell, the type of thing. I have been losing sleep on top of that. I work third shift getting downloads. Wow. So you got to be strategic at your self-care. Self-care is everything. I just had to ancestors just got on me about my self-care and changing things around in my schedule to take better care of myself. Don't let me cool my head with hearts. Put on white to bed. Don't let me cool my head with hearts. Put on my white to bed. I don't understand that. I'm sorry, Chiquita. I didn't get that one right there. Er, herbs. I'm trying to put that together, but it's not registering for some reason. It's not registering in my head. You probably want to say that over again because I'm not even registering it. I'm so sorry. But again, it's going to keep us grounded. And archangels, they're going to help you with that. Again, once you start working with angels and elevated ancestors, sometimes they look the same, they feel the same. Okay? That's why too you can't be taking a lot of regular stuff to your altar. You getting in alignment. And you getting out of alignment like that, you know, it shows that we probably need to be focused on our progress. They're going to help you stay in alignment. They break up any confusion, any psychic blocks, and guide you to the truth. They also help restore your faith in something many root workers, conjurers need when walking the path alone. So, again, this is why you need your ancestors. Don't let me cut my head with herbs when I have strong dreams. Okay, now I get it. Okay, I get it now. Hi, how you doing, Dimples? Okay, now I got it. It finally registered. It finally registered, Shakita. Hi, Dimples. So again, making sure that we're with our ancestors. I don't care what kind of hoodoo spell they doing, showing you, and you out here that don't even make sense. And then want to call on your ancestors and you ain't spend no time with them folks. You ain't sat at that altar. You ain't ate with them. You ain't told them what's going on with you. You ain't even been working on your stank attitude, but you want to keep reaching for spells and stuff. I Thomas, I understand her. She's saying we're white to white to bed. We're white to bed. Okay. And so again, making sure that you right with your ancestors. Don't be out here just grabbing stuff you ain't on the ancestors. Then you ain't doing nothing but crossing yourself up like that because you ain't in alignment and you don't understand the spiritual components to hoodoo. There's a time for everything. Just because somebody showed you to do something, don't mean you go do it tomorrow. Yeah, there's a strategy to that. It should be a day and a time. The energy should be present when you're doing that. Okay, if it's not an emergency, you know, plan everything out. That's why our ancestors they followed that almanac. All right, and have faith in what they tell you. It's gonna work. Stop listening to other people in the first place, because once you understand what herbs do and how to work with herbs, especially you earth signs, to really sit there and connect with the herbs. Pray up because everything in hoodoo is alive. I see folks just throwing stuff and stuff and stuff. You ain't sitting your herbs out, all your tools out, and honoring them. At least spray some rum or something, some smoke or something on them. Thank them. Again, everything is alive. So again, approaching the work in a sacred way. Okay, knowing that those tools, slowing down and doing the work instead of reaching for stuff and dumping stuff together, and knowing how these herbs work. Sometimes you don't need a whole bunch of herbs. A little bit goes a long way, especially when you're working with the 7-day candle in the jar. Now that could be different if you're rolling your candle and inscribing your candle. Even then, we want to be modest with working with our tools. We want to approach them in a sacred way because now you have all these spirits that you're setting your intentions with, helping you do the work. That is including herbs, your conjure oils, and other supplies that other things we talk about over there that can amplify your work. You can layer your work, and again, too, when you start work, wash, get cleansed first. A lot of us reaching for some stuff and we ain't did no cleaning. We ain't did no cleansing before that. And that's important, doing the cleansing work before you even get started on something. You might have to cleanse for 3 days before you do it, or maybe you could do it the day before. But there needs to be some type of a protocol or structure when you're doing your work because hoodoo works in layers. It's like some people they want to do a road opener before doing a blockbuster and then find out they got all these roadblocks. So they need to go back and do a blockbuster. And blockbuster is just not about breaking up stuff, but it's also going back looking at the shadow work and where these blocks can be in you. See, a candle just ain't gonna fix it. You're setting the intentions and then you're bringing in the awareness. That's why working with angels too helps you bring in that awareness and your ancestors. So what were you saying earlier about food and the ancestors? When I eat poorly, life just goes happy. How do you do blockbuster? Just do the candle. Some people do a candle that can you can either set your intentions with your herbs or you can do a candle. But the thing that I'm saying the black blockbuster work, what is in there? Are there old beliefs and wounds in that's blocking you? Do you need to do a bath and cleansing doing that whole blockbusting work? You understand me? Not just burn the candle, you think everything gonna go away. Actively working on these blocks that's stopping you from opening your roads. Sometimes we are the main denominator when we're trying to get things done. There could be blocks in our subconscious that's stopping us from moving the roadblocks. There could be physical roadblocks that we don't want to look at, don't want to address, but once we start working on them, then they're removed. Like what was one TikTok creator? She was talking about how her bills or something did something, and she froze her bills. She put them in the freezer. She did something with it, and she kept them in there until they zeroed out, almost zeroed out her bill. So these little things, because these little things right here can block your energy. Haywire. Life goes haywire when I eat poorly. It again, take care of yourself. Self-care. This really hoodoo is all about self-care. You'll do a lot of that once you start doing the shadow work and you see how much energy and discipline you need to have to stay in alignment. You really ain't got time to be worried about nobody else. You really ain't got time. You got your own stuff. You really don't feel like looking at nobody else because you got so much stuff going on with you. You know, you really can't. You ain't got time to judge nobody. You too busy looking at you and doing your work. She took the full bill and froze it, and she just used the company name. I don't know what she did, but she said she froze it. She took the bill and she put it in the freezer and she left it there. And the company kept following up with her, and as she put it in the freezer, she saw her bill begin to drop. But again, that's being in alignment and being consistent with your ancestors. Okay? And I'm sure she was doing a working on that too, behind that. So it's more just to put in the freezer. She was doing some sort of workings with that. So working again, working with these herbs, being modest in your working, and knowing that sometimes hoodoo require layers. Sometimes you can't do any work until you do some other stuff. And that happens, it's normal. Though everybody like it, no, not a lot of us practitioners like it, but it happens. This again, this is about perfecting your magic and healing yourself, healing your life. And you'll be surprised, how your life looks when you actually put in the work. Okay? You actually put in the work, and this is the center of it. I don't advise anybody will look flashy and all this sort of stuff. You need to go to your ancestors and stay on the right side of the track. especially if, you know your story, you know what your ancestors been through. Heal, talk to them, sit down, talk to them. Stop trying to do hoodoo without communicating with your ancestors. Stop trying to communicate with these other deities when you have not talked to your ancestors. Your ancestors have not gave you uh any they haven't gave you any guidance on trying to connect with these other deities. If you have a hard time focusing, I'll be doing some uncrossing. That's what I would be doing. And finding out why am I having a hard time focusing. What trauma is stopping that? You definitely need to be doing a cleansing if you have a hard time focusing. There's definitely something spiritual going on there. Energy, it's an energy leakage or something somewhere. Okay? Something is going on there. Uh we also, I think the most interesting thing, one of the things I liked and I love about hoodoo is the variety of spiritual support we have in our courts. You're welcome, Morgan Banks 69. So again, looking at all the assistance that we have and how um this ancestors and spiritual support is so I think it's so beneficial to us as well. And awesome that we do have this assistance once we become aware of it. One of the things, and I've talked about this before, is the Madamas, and they're revered in Espiritismo, Cruzado, and have recently gained recognition in modern Hoodoo. So that I wouldn't say it's recent; it's been there for a little while. Their roots trace back to enslaved African women, midwives, herbalists, and root workers in the Caribbean and in South America. And so when we start looking at the Lamadamas, who are we looking at? We're looking at our great grandmothers. We're looking at the midwives. We're looking at the root workers. Unknown, some known. And with the Madamas, there are nine uh, types of Madamas or Lamadamas. They're not trend spirits. They are elevated ancestors who served as fierce protectors, healers, guides from those walking a spiritual path. La Madama is not one spirit. She's a power collective of uh, ans- ancestral women. These are the spirits of root workers, like I said, midwives, conjure women, enslaved healers who walk this earth with sacred wisdom and now walk beside us. Okay. They protect, they teach, they guide, often dressed as in those little gingham skirts, the aprons, the head wraps. The Madamas are spiritual grandmothers, fierce, loving, and wise. They come from a tradition like Espiritismo, Rosada, and now they're showing up in Hoodoo more than ever. But don't get it twisted. You better know how to call on her and be right in right standing working with La Madama. And usually, if we are working with our spirit guides, you might see them in your court, especially when you start doing ancestors work. You have a lot of the older maternal ancestors that come up when you start doing um, your shadow work. They know a lot of things. If you have a mother wound, and you decide to work with those maternal ancestors, sometimes they instantly just come forward. If you're doing your shadow work and going to your ancestors' altar, they will come forward and start comforting you. So you may see some of them in your court. Now, if you have one in your court, you see one in your court, uh, your ancestors bring one forth for you. Again, it's going to be important that you take a close look at that uh, Madama and ask her what is her gifts, because if she those gifts are in you, if she's in your court, because again, these are ancestral spirits as well. Okay. In a spiritual court, it is a team of spirits, ancestors, guides assigned to you to support you, to protect you, and teach you throughout your life. We all have a spiritual court. These spirits walk with you not by random choice, but through a spiritual contracts made before your birth. So they was assigned to you. Hi, Red. They were assigned to you. So they're already in your court, but you're not going to see that if you're not working with your ancestors and doing your healing work, because a lot of these, your spirit guides and your ancestors are really going to come forth when you're doing that healing work. What if you don't feel protected? Again, doing that uncrossing work, I would get that Psalms 23, Psalms 27, and Psalms 91 crunk up, and I'll keep saying that. I'll definitely be saying it. Uh, I definitely be saying it at sunrise and sunset. And I would definitely be calling on the Archangel Michael, Saint Michael, and my most elevated ancestors. Again, you got power, but if you ain't using your power in your mouth for the right thing, you got to open your mouth and say it. Can't nobody help you if you don't ask for help. A closed mouth can't be fed. Well, if you don't say you hungry, have somebody know. Again, putting in the work. This is work. Nothing's gonna magically come to you. If you know you don't feel protected, then again, shifting your mind, shifting your heart, and start calling on protection, because you have it. They're there. But if you don't ask for it, how can they help? You have to ask for help. You have to ask for help. They cannot intervene if you're not opening your mouth. A lot of us don't know how to open our mouth and ask for the things that we need. Okay. So making sure you're looking at your spiritual court, and you have these spirits that walk with you. You understand you have a variety of many spiritual helpers around you. Each person's court is unique, often reflects their soul mission, ancestry, karmic lessons, and spiritual potential. So again, once you start working with your ancestors, start doing shamanic journey work, going into the ancestral realm, you will be able to communicate with your spiritual court. I don't understand what you're saying there. Now I know you didn't say you were a liar, but spirit said greet your elders. What? I don't understand. Hello, Logan. I don't know where are you coming from here. Greetings, sisters. I don't know what you were trying to say. Hello, how you doing? Thank you for coming in the live. But anyway, again, looking at your spiritual court and seeing who in there. This is going to consist of some of your blood ancestors, uh, your elevated ancestors, your spirit guides, these mystic or culture spirits will be in there. Okay. So again, working with your ancestors is going, oh, thank you, Magic of Who say. But working with these spirits, your ancestors, let me not say it that way. Working with your ancestors is going to be the core of that. Nothing gets past that. So going to reach for a candle and you ain't said with your ancestors, it's just not, it's not right. Okay. And your magic gonna look different from everybody else magic when your ancestors show you. It may not look like anything else somebody showed you. That's fine and okay. Doesn't mean it's not hoodoo. Okay, and I encourage that when you get over there. Now, if you decide you want to share your experience and your results over there, share that. Again, uh, may give somebody else some ideas on how to do their work or what might work for them. But just because it doesn't look like anybody else's doesn't mean it's not hoodoo. Okay, we going to give you structure over there where you learn because you're gonna do your work. Nobody's, you know, a lot of us we want everybody to sit there and leak energy with us and tell us everything instead of pick up a book and sit down and learn for ourselves. And that is not how spirit work. Okay, they require time. That is currency. If you don't have enough time to build up your spiritual allies, then they're not gonna have time working for you because you didn't take the time to sit down and to develop a relationship with them. You can't just take. They got you thinking you could just do anything and take from magic and don't put no time in. It absolutely does not work like that. That's just like when we go out in nature and you get herbs or pick something, you still got to pay what you take and leave an offering there. That's just like when you work with your ancestors and you want to strengthen them and keep them strong so they can support you. We provide offerings for them. We pray for them. Okay? And that's a lot of what you're going to be doing over there. Ancestors love when you are healing and when you are praying. That is the most sweetest offering you can give your ancestors. That's the most sweetest thing that you could do to be aware of your wounds, start healing on them and praying for yourself and your ancestors. I had some sister up here say she do a Bovita. That's beautiful. You might want to do a Bovita or novena, but again, that's why you will see in the Catholic Church and that they keep it. I try to try to cover it up, but they got whole prayers dedicated to the dead, to ancestors, to saints. You definitely can see a lot of hoodoo in Catholicism. Okay. So again, you doing yourself a disservice. Go out here. I'm powerful. I can do this. I can do that. And sit yourself down somewhere and go talk to your ancestors. Because believe me, you wouldn't be doing nothing if you weren't standing on the shoulders of your ancestors. So just be quiet. Everything you got from them. Okay. And once you do that, start doing that self reflection and shadow work, you will start again gaining real fruits of the spirits. Your intuition, your psychic ability is going to heighten once you start doing that shadow work. Because again, when we start to look at ourselves and how we are instantly and doing that self-awareness work, our abilities they heighten. We can see things around us a lot better. Okay, and I wouldn't recommend like I had one of my members, she saw it for herself when I told, and I've said this before, do not put recent family members on your altar because some of them they passed away with their wounds. And she said, "Oh," she said, "I listened to what you said, Miss Penny." She said, I took them all off my altar and I start honoring the ancestors on the land and the unknown ancestors, elevated ancestors. She said, "Oh my gosh," and I can see everything that's in my family, all the trauma and stuff that was in my family. I feel like a fog was lifted. I can clearly see now. Cause see, they again, they're comfortable. They're not interested in healing. Some of them. And so when you start connecting with elevated ancestors and start healing and praying for them, again, you're giving that energy to that spiritual evolution and healing, the ones who passed away like that. Okay. But if you're not careful, they'll keep you cloudy because they died cloudy. And we need to be praying for them. And who can do it the best is the elevated ancestors. Okay, it strengthens the lineage when you do that. Now, especially if you do ancestral healing collectively in a group, I've heard of all sort of mystical experiences happening when collective ancestral work is being done, when we do it in groups. Also, it really impacts the present family if you have a big enough group that's focused on it. Okay. I've seen people have great results. Family members, certain family members start healing, relationships start healing, especially if you do it collectively. Okay. But that needs to be part of your regimen is going to the altar, praying for those ancestors, doing elevation rituals, because you're strengthening yourself, you're strengthening your lineage, and that is the best offering to give to them. And sitting down talking about what's going on with you. They already see no sense in putting fluff on it and this and that. They already see how you is. They know where you come from. You might as go on and be naked and just tell the truth with them. They don't take no fancy prayers and fancy lips and all that type of stuff. You need to talk to them just like you talking to me. Now, if you want to write out some formal prayers for them, fine. But at some point, you need to just be keeping it real, just like me and you. They know they live this life. They know what it's about. You'll get better assistance like that. Okay. And they want you to be clean when you're doing. That's why you have to. This is a way of life. A lot of you, you want to pick this up, but this is a way of life. It takes some slowing down and listening and shutting up. It takes some, no, not right now. Pause right now. This ain't the time right now. Now I'm more aware of what ancestors I need to work with and focus more on healing with them. That's right, my family is toxic. So when I started my ancestors' work, a similar experience happened. See? That's what Angelus Carter said. Again, you don't know what's in your family until we start breaking it down, looking at the frequency that your family was on. Who is your mama? Who is your daddy? What was the characteristics? What were their habits? What was their personality type? Let's look at the uncle. Let's look at the aunts again, breaking it all down and looking at your relationship. And then you come to find out you've been living in denial. You got this fantasy family that in your damn head, but when you see it on paper, it is not nothing that way. I'm telling you, because the family is the biggest thing to have you in denial. You think you have created this fantasy in your head about your family, but when you start breaking all this stuff down on the paper, some of us, it is not that way. And the denial breaks away, and we are forced to look at the frequency that our family is operating out of, looking at that trauma and how it got in there. Okay. And then look doing the shadow work too, looking at any of those spirits that got in our um what I what I like to say. Some people call it epigenetic, but got in through negative phrases, habits, or anything like that. Because again, they're slowly uh, indoctrinating you and exposing you to trauma through these little phrases and things like that. Like, I give you something to cry for, things like that. Oh, how can you be depressed? You know, things like that. Because our some of them, they didn't know anything about self care. Some of them passed over in a state of survival. And so it's us to do our job to get in a state of thriving and out of surviving. This is an ongoing thing here. Yep, the illusions wears out, and it's something because you can really get a chance to see uh what frequency your family were operating out of, and you know the work that you have to do. And what I like about shadow work, when you go get that, when I provide that natal chart blueprint, I call it a spiritual blueprint. You can see the shadow work that you need to do when I cast your your chart. You'll see it up in there. Then you go back and look at your shadow work, it's damn near identical. When you look at your spiritual blue chart and you look at your shadow work, you will see it in there. You'll see your mother wound or your father wound. You will see those things in your chart. Okay. So if that, and I break that down for you. So if you're interested in that, DM if you're interested in that. But that's your root bag right there. Once you look at your chart, that's your root bag. You know everything that you need to do to get yourself in alignment and the work you need to do with your ancestors to stay consistent on it. Okay. I know I can get stay on that for a long time. Okay. So, two, if you're interested and looking more into your spiritual court and learning more about the Madamas and seeing if you got, and we should, again, looking at your spiritual court, if you're interested in working with that archetype uh, with your ancestors, again, start doing the ancestors work, start healing. Okay. Start doing the ancestors work. Start looking at the spiritual science of hoodoo instead of just picking up spells and doing things, knowing how things work. There's a foundation to it. There's ancestral veneration. Our magic and metaphysical power comes from Solomonic magic and learning more about the archangels, doing those rituals and choosing which archangel that we want to work on and setting our attention. We want to work with and setting our attentions. Okay. Those are the most important things that you can be working on when it comes to ancestors hoodoo. It's making sure that you do that ancestors work and that you're looking at your spiritual core because you're never going to know who's in there until you start doing your healing work and asking for help, asking them for help. And your dreams will start to kick up. If you're putting in the time and you're doing your rituals and going to your altar on a consistent basis, then they will show up in your dreams. Your dreams will kick up. I promise you that you will get results. Okay. And who I had somebody come to me and she was doing all the baths and things like that. But really, again, we was needing to be more consistent and get those rituals going. Because again, we're programming our mind for magic. We're programming our mind to be able to talk to spirits. And once you start meditating and doing visual meditations, again, we are learning to see with our third eye and going to the ancestral realm. And I think that's the biggest issue that blocks people from communicating with the ancestors. They think they got to go see a medium. They think they're not capable of communicating with their ancestors. But you're very much capable of doing that. But if you're not willing to go deep and do the shadow work, okay, and look at things from a objective perspective, then you can shut off your communication with spirit because you want to live, again, in denial. And working with spirit requires us to come out of denial. That's why some people, when they do tarot readings, they can't read themselves because they're not willing to come out of denial. They're not willing to look at self. Only so far where you gonna get with them tarot cards before you start healing somebody or healing yourself. I tell folks that you can pick them up if you want to, but it's only so far you're gonna get with them cards when you ain't healing yourself or nobody, because that's what they were designed for. That's what they're gonna push you to do. Maybe you briefly discuss working with Jezebel spirit. That's a complex topic, but I'll hit on it. Again, working with these spirits such as these, some people call them evil. Some people, I like to put them in a goetic section, in this goetic section when I come to those kind of spirits. But again, there you're talking about conjure, okay? So if you're working with a Jezebel spirit, and that they, like I've heard some of the lady of the night, they work with that spirit, depend on what your intentions is. At some point, you gonna have to pay that spirit. Okay, how are you paying that spirit? Yeah, we have the opportunity to work with these other spirits. Again, that's a Jezebel spirit that you're talking about. And what the Jezebel spirit do, help you attract more clients or whatever your intentions in, kind of seducing like. Okay. And you can work with other spirits. So we definitely talk about that on the conjure side, but I don't recommend anybody going over there doing that if you ain't got your rituals consistent in a relationship with your archangels and your spiritual allies are not intact. Because if you go to working with some of these spirits and your mind and your emotions is not intact, it could stick on you. And if you don't know the spiritual hygiene, they'll tell you what they want. They'll tell you what they want. Okay. So, and if you don't know what they want, you probably don't need to be working with them. Because again, y- your ancestors gonna tell you how to do things, and if that's right for you, they'll set that up for you. Even when I talk to my conjure class, I'm gonna put safeguards on everything they do. If you don't know how to cast no circle, you don't know how to stand in that circle without fear, you don't know how to keep yourself safe when you're casting that circle, and you're not rooted, you're not grounded and rooted with your ancestors, you don't need to be doing it. But you got some people that will reach for that anyway without doing any type of work. And with my experience with seeing them, they get toe up at the end because you're trying to take a shortcut. And you may not even need to go that way. You probably can go another way. So really think about that when again, when you're conjuring up, because we still have to pay our ancestors. Our ancestors don't work for free. We have to give them offering. We have to pray for them. We have to do work ourselves. We have to pray. We have to fast. Um, we still again we're in a relationship with our ancestors where we have to give them offerings and pay them for any work. They do not do anything for free. Spirit does not work for free. And I think that's what people think. No, there is a cost. There is a cost when you're working, when you start doing any type of conjure work, uh, especially going out of anything beyond your ancestors. You know, that goes for any deity that you work with, just like Saint Expedite. He does not work for free. You got to give him recognition, and I think he like pound cake. So keep that in mind. And before you even start doing that, uh, perfect your rituals. Perfect your rituals. Get consistent at that, and then it'll be easy for you to work with the spirit outside. You'll have the integrity, you'll have the strength and the power to do it. Because when you come in contact with these spirits that's not your ancestors, you're gonna have a different feeling. They're gonna be bringing a different frequency and vibration. And if you don't know how to hang on to your frequency and vibration, it's gonna drag you down. You're gonna wonder why you depressed, why you angry, why you got this going on. It's because of that spirit. Okay? It's because of that. Because again, how spirit's gonna talk to you, it's gonna talk to you through your mind and emotions. So if they don't show up physically, um that's how they're gonna show up. But we also talk about how to do that in a way where you can use a medium instead of invoking them. You can use a medium. That's why some people use crystal balls. They will conjure through crystal balls so they can see the spirit that way and not have it fully manifest in physical reality. You get to keep a boundary at the energies that come up. So again, some of our ancestors again use mediums and not themselves. And so you want to be careful. If you don't know how to approach them, you have not been consistent at ritual, you know nothing about Solomonic magic or ceremony magic. You haven't studied on that because that's going to really give you an idea how to call forth the spirit, how to conjure a real spirit. Okay. So I wouldn't recommend anyone jumping over there doing that if you're not in a line, you have not did any shadow work, and you want to be calling up these spirits. What that boy said, I was looking at some go down my timeline. He was in the gang. That tripped me out. That boy said he was sitting up here calling on all these demons and stuff. And then when one showed up, he got scared. What you get scared for? Because you called it up. Y'all made that a part of y'all spiritual practice doing this because you were in the game. And then when it show up, you get scared. But what you doing playing with stuff like that in the first place? See how folks like to play with stuff? And then when it backfire and they jump up in their face, they scared now. No, don't be scared. Okay, and that's how you gonna have to be when you stand in a circle calling on some of these spirits that go beyond your ancestors. Okay. And I can say that too. You know, I think somebody said they wanted to work with Barry and Samity in this Barry Salmon and Mama Bridget. Again, those are big high stepper spirits. You don't play with them. You understand me? They don't show up for nothing. You better have a good reason why you're calling on them. And you better be paying them because they would ask you to sacrifice a habit or something that you love in order to do things. And if you go back on that and renege on that, they can wreak havoc in your life. So again, be very careful. They're very powerful spirits, but sometimes the offering or the sacrifice they demand of you, it's gonna count. You gonna know you paying. You understand me? And if you ain't ready for that, do not call on them. I even talk about that in voodoo to break that down. You got cool spirits and you got hot spirits. You got those petro spirits. And those petro spirits are for someone who is more experienced. And again, you can work with cool spirits for a long time. They're very powerful. Not ever work with petro spirits, which are hot spirits. They can be volatile. Okay? That's just again, you know, and I'm not labeling nothing evil or good, you know. Again, if you don't have the experience, then you're not going to be able to do it. You're going to get yourself caught up in something. Okay? So work on the side with your ancestors. Let them guide you to what you should do. Somebody was asking me about Kimbanda. They got Kimbanda and they got Umbanda. And you look at Kimbanda, you know, a lot of people think Kimbanda is evil because they work with more petrol hot spirits, justice spirits, you know. And again, you get some people over there, they can abuse the power of these spirits and turn it into something else. And you kind of see that go on with Kimbanda. You kind of see that go on with what's the other, Santa Muerte. You kind of see that go on. What is another one? Freemasonry. It's how they corrupted it and bastardized it and made that, something beautiful and divine, and turned and corrupted that. So you have some people that go in and they'll blaspheme the mysteries. Depends on how you use them, if you pay them. Yep, that's right, Red. Lamadama, again, you got to be in great better standing with her, because she falls under the elevated ancestors. You can't be working with Lamadama and doing certain things. If you are a person that like to break up homes and stuff like that, Lamadama is not gonna be that person for you to work with. Okay. If you're a person that don't like change, then you don't want to work with Lamadama, because Lamadama gonna go in and shake up some stuff and change some stuff. Again, taking the time to really think about how these spirits gonna show up and do their thing. So you're knowledgeable. I am just getting into hoodoo and trying to learn as much as possible. Well, you're invited to come to our hoodoo community, Spiritual Roots, on Patreon. We have a platform over there where we teach everything hoodoo, the spiritual science of it, and all its components to help you get a foundation. Hey, Miss Geese. Hey, Kayla. Yeah. So again, you get to looking at that, because the stuff that I'm going to go into this and in the conjecture, we haven't really got deep because there's so many other books. But because the way these books was written by Freemasons, some of these occult books, many of them was written by Freemasons. I have to be very careful and put safeguards on some of these books that I and the conjecture are going to be going over. I had somebody in here ask me about Luciferian. I said, okay, because I've read a lot of them. You got some occult books based on Luciferianism. Uh, Again, then you have some that teach you how to call on different intelligence and entities. Okay, depending on what you're looking at. So it's some occult books I have to put safeguards on, or some that I'm uncomfortable even sharing with the conjecture. And then we have to get down to how you're going to use it. Again, putting them safeguards on there, because so nobody gonna go out there and hurt themselves. Okay. Because you got somebody, like somebody, they said they was interested in Luciferian. And I've heard Brother Panic talk about and all that. Be careful with that, because a lot of that is surrounded in Freemasonry. And depending on and some of the rituals that they have in there, if you don't understand what you're saying and all that stuff, you can get yourself caught up and in a contract with the deity that's not even ancestral. It's not ancestral. Okay. And a lot of our ancestors got caught up in their Freemasonry, blindly going in there doing rituals and stuff like that, and did not know that they were putting curses on their family. What's the man name? Somebody got to tell me his name again. Um, what is the man name that made a show about it? He's supposed to be the first black Mason in America, and now you got the Boule that's following in his footsteps. And you got a lot of pastors, a lot of these people in these churches that's experiencing all types of poverty, and they feel like God ain't listening to them and all this stuff, and the people in the church, they seem to be backbiting and attacking members that are uh, you know, really trying to call on their higher power, trying to call on the Most High, and they're doing the right thing. They're attacking those type of people. A lot of them people, pastors are Freemason. That's his name, Prince Hall. Hey, Kayla. I don't know, Pascal Beverly Randall. I don't know who that is. Maybe I do. That Pascal sound familiar. Um, but again, a lot of them church they Freemason. That's why a lot of them people in them church be messed up like that. Cause those spirits that they invoke and they inhabit these people. Whoever these Freemasonry, they come in their life in touch. We don't know what they're doing in these rituals. What I was watching, I don't know where I was watching it at, but they was talking about some of the ancient rituals when they did a lot of stuff to Moloch and all these secret societies and things like that. So again, really watching what you're doing, because like our ancestor said, this is not witchcraft. And so you're when you start getting beyond your ancestors and going to Luciferian and things like that. Okay, we're crossing over into witchcraft. And you'll see that too. Go back and watch Lovecraft Country. And look at them people. Look at Prince Hall ancestors. Them people was a hot damn mess. He messed up his whole damn bloodline. Okay? And I've already told you my feelings about that. I really believe Hoodoo was in the church very heavy, that it was really holy. It was power in that church with Hoodoo. And they wanted that out of there, and they brought in Freemasonry. They wanted that Hoodoo out of there. And when they brought Freemasonry in there, the church lost its real power. The black church lost its real power. And you go back and look at some of that stuff. They broke all down in denomination. Then we look up Jesus is God now. When did that happen? When did that happen? I don't know when that happened. I'm like, oh my gosh, that's not what the Gnostic said. That's not what he said. He never claimed to be God. What is happening here? It's called Lovecraft Country. It's a show. And Prince Hall, they were going back to that lodge because they were descendants of Prince Hall. Okay, they were trying to fit in a society with paleface that didn't even want them in there. Again, just continuing that trauma. And you had Hoodoo. You could have just focused on that Hoodoo thing and build that up in your community. But no, you wanted to go there and be under this stuff. And it messed up your generational line like that. I don't even want. Again, that's what happens when you go in that Freemason, that because of the rituals and the things that they do and the ceremonies that they do, they call curses upon themselves. They pledge allegiance to this. Okay. Now you have stepped out the boundaries of your ancestors. You are no longer protected by your ancestors. When you're calling up on these things, you're not only cursing up yourself, you're cursing your whole descendant and bloodline in some of these rituals. I made a status about saying Jesus, God are two separate entities, and religious people was triggered. Yeah, they was triggered. See, that's what look at magic of who said the apostle chief that Jesus God. That man never did say he was God. That man didn't say that. Okay, they be doing rituals and stuff. They have to pledge allegiance when they say they would rather uh be unalive than to divulge the rituals and secrets that they have in there. They're supposed to keep the secrets of their brother, even if they unalive somebody. These are the oaths that they make. They do not have spiritual integrity. They are not in alignment with the Most High. This is not this. They are not in alignment with their ancestors. That's why what we say when we talk about Hoodoo, no, that's not witchcraft. We don't do witchcraft over here. It's a thin line. We stay in alignment with the Most High. You don't hear that in Hoodoo. We will work with saints. We will work with archangels. We will work with non-Christian ancestral deities, such as Papa Legba, Azurli Frida. We'll work with them. Okay, but it's a thin line when you go to cursing your whole bloodline, and that's what they do over there. That's what they do. That's why you got a lot of people at these churches. They blind. They messed up. You know, uh, even when you tell them the truth, they don't even know that they're under this stuff. And it makes it even stronger when you got all these pastors that practicing these rituals and things like that. One girl was talking about how she left the church because, she was going through a hard time and they didn't show up for her, and she kind of she explained what was going on to the church, and she said they were using fear tactics and everything to get her in there. Never once did they say, "We love you, sister so and so. How can we be there for you?" They were just giving her scare tactics on. I was like, what kind they letting you know what kind of God they serving. And some of these people, they will unalive you in the name of Jesus and feel justified doing it. You understand me? And they own Bible say an angry man has a strange God. An angry man has a strange God. Okay? And then I'm concerned too, because y'all sitting up, I don't know no God. I'm not gonna sit there and act like I'm drinking somebody's blood of my ancestors and eating their flesh. This in itself is a very disturbing thing. And then you like to call voodoo evil when they do their rituals. That's the right way. At least that they folk it's an offering. But again, y'all then unalive the whole man. And then you don't change your behavior. You use him as a scapegoat why you can do all these nefarious things. Oh, he died for my sin. He know I'll become short of the glory. Instead of changing your crazy behavior, again, when you jump over here in spirituality, you gotta get your mind right, and a lot of y'all don't want that. That means you got to come out of denial and you got to stop doing this crazy crap that you're doing. You really got to look at what you're doing, because a lot of you don't have a lot of spiritual intelligence or knowledge. Really have to ask yourself, what you're doing. You have to question it, and y'all don't want to do that. Why do a lot of these spiritual people still using Jesus? It's confusing to the ones that's coming into this spiritual journey. I don't know, beloved. Now I know in Hoodoo we looked at Jesus, again, because we changed the Bible into a conjure book. We looked at it through the lens of Hoodoo, a spiritual science, and looking at the herbs in the Bible and looking at these men like conjure men and shamans. That's how we looked at them. They was conjure men, root men, shamans to us, because we understood the spiritual science that was going on there. I think when they brought in that Freemasonry, they brainwashed these people. When they took hoodoo out of there. Now a lot of them still do hoodoo and don't realize it. Some of them, you can see echoes of it up in there. So witchcraft is what is not aligned with the Most High, but lower levels of entity. What's the difference? So witchcraft is what is not aligned with the Most High. It's not aligned with your ancestors. It's not aligned with integrity. It is aligned with witchcraft is manipulation. It is a lore. It is dark psychology. That's dark psychology. That is offensive magic. You are using manipulation, sociopathic behaviors. You're using those, dark psychology. And when you understand demonology, that's what demonology is. Demonology is dark psychology. See, you can't, all of this is consciousness. A lot of your magic comes from your mind. Magic is born in the mind on the astral realm. It's born in the imagination, and then it manifests on the spiritual realm. Okay. So when you're working witchcraft, it involves, just like you know, like they done us now. That was totally witchcraft. What they did is to wipe out our true identity of our ancestors, to change our race, to keep changing our race, and then come take our land. And now that's truly witchcraft. That what they use with all these these fake laws. They got a prophet, and then they got the prophet. See how they do that? That's witchcraft with these names and stuff. That's witchcraft. That's manipulation. What is a contract? They conning you into tracking you and trapping you. That's usually sometimes what these contracts are. Again, look at the language, that they put us under. Just like you have your United States citizen, or you're an American. Those are two different things. United States citizens becomes like government property. An American citizen is sovereignty. Is sovereign, is a sovereign being, and don't is not owned by the government. See how they play with us? So again, we got a lot of these words. Again, a lot of them is being used for witchcraft. I think the English language itself is a lot of witchery in there. You look at some of these words, understand, okay? I have to be under you, okay? You have to look at some of these words. Good morning. Oh, I got to, I have to be good. I have to have a good sad day. That's basically what you're telling me. Good morning. I have to have a good sad day. So again, looking at too how they're using these words as well. That's why I say when you get in hoodoo, you a lot of times you just shut your mouth. That's why the ancestors want you to be shutting your mouth. And when you do say something, it has to mean something. Like they have human, yep, humankind, mankind. Again, they're doing that wordplay. Is they human or what? How can you be kind of human? If is there a man or what? How can you be kind of a man? Okay, we do it. They do a lot of wordplay with this. So again, when you start looking at witchcraft, you'll see there's a lot of manipulation. There's a lot of uh, mental and emotional abuse that has to happen. Happens in witchcraft. That's witchcraft. Okay, that's why our ancestors looked at them crazy and they was telling us we practice witchcraft. No, we not. No, we not. We not manipulating nobody. We not doing nothing to nobody. We not doing that. We're not speaking curses upon our descendants, where you have them coming in with this theosophy and the Freemason and the Hermetic order and all them. They came in and bastardized that and did that. Okay, they did that. You go back to the Knight Templars and what they caught them Knight Templars doing, the Rosicrucians. Yes, go look at some, and they have many occult books, and so I've read many of them. And I know, I look at some of them and I'm just like, okay, this is some of this is just like you just want to be messed up like this. Like y'all change this to be messed up. Okay. So that's why too when I'm going over when I go over these books and start dropping them, which I have a lot of old ones. I have a lot of old ones. So when I drop those books over there, I put a lot of safeguards on there. I want you to be safe when you're using it and know what you're doing. Know if you're ready for that. And that's going to cause for us too to look more into necromancy, because our ancestors, they were good at necromancy as well. Okay, they work with spirits all the time, and that's the part I really want to focus on the conjure side, really understanding how to work with these spirits, okay, in a safe way. But again, it gets really crazy when you look at some of these occult books. Some of these occult books you do not need to be reading, because it was Freemasons that wrote them. Okay, yeah, you'll see a common thread, especially when you come to the ceremony magic. You'll see the lesser banishing ritual. You'll see and we gain a lot of that in the Solomonic. We go into Solomonic magic and we talk about the lesser banishing rituals. When we talk about calling in the directions, the middle pillar exercise, and attuning your energy to higher frequencies, we talk about that. So that is a safeguard too, is to really understand Solomonic magic. And once you read that and get into these other occult books, you'll start seeing the difference where some of it is obscured. Okay. And it's only one book I like over there that gives a really breakdown of that when it comes to conjure, is the book by Costinos that's called Summoning Spirits. Okay, he's just made that so simple, and he's breaking it down. But again, when you call on these spirits stuff, some of these spirits want to be paid, and some of them have a very strong presence. Some of them are awing to behold, and if you're not ready for that, that can be a shock to you. Again, stay over there with your ancestors. Work with your, do your rituals. Work with the angels. Get familiar with the saints and all of that. You can do that for a while and never have to go over here and do conjure. But you have people that's interested in it, and I'm definitely going to teach it in a healthy way. How about paper in my shoe? Paper in my shoe, we just broken that down. I think they just posted over there the other day. Now, paper in my shoe, I love that because it really shows the power of conjure with just your handwriting and paper. And you can really create sigils and create intentions in the way you're writing your petition and writing your name. Okay. So that really, like I said, you learn all of that. If you're interested in that, go over there to my Patreon, Spiritual Roots Hoodoo on Patreon. We break all of that down where you can look at the different names, where you can make sigils in your petition. We go even further uh, with that when we talk about Solomonic magic, because again, you can amplify your work. You can do it in layers to amplify it. And so that's going to be important, learning the six and seven books of Moses, learning about those seals, especially if you're doing petition work, because it might come in handy. If you're doing candle work as well, again, and learning more about those archangels. So there's a lot of foundation there to help you, okay, and get grounded in everything. But we talked about paper mache. There's so many ways that you can use paper. Okay. Like I said, that'll be good for. I just look at an earth sign. You can do so much stuff with that with the earth sign. You can do so much stuff with that. With the air signs, I can see air signs being attracted to that. Okay. But again, that might be your thing. That might be in your ancestral lineage just to work with paper. Our ancestors used what they had. Okay. What's your take on shoe work? I like it. I think it's a simple, effective way to get things done, especially when you're doing domination work or you're trying to command somebody. Okay, I think that's the safest way, depending on what you got going on around you. If you are in contact with these people that got these different energies, I just like to have some integrity to my work. I would do a domination work like that if I'm working with somebody in my office and I just know that they have this personality is just overwhelming and they're just stubborn people, you know. I would do domination work. Put them in my shoe, okay? Walk them down. Okay, if I'm trying to get something done and this person ain't breaking, again, it's so many ways you can do that. Okay, you can walk them down, put them in your shoe. And then you could do it another way where people have gotten justice that way. We're putting them in their shoe. So again, it's so many different ways that you can do work. You can even amplify it. Again, that's why it's good to know. Look at why our ancestors used the 6 and 7 books of Moses and why they use that almanac, so you can understand how it works. Okay. Why so many words for a human? Girl, I don't even know. Kayla, I don't even know why they do that. Again, they playing tricks. They playing mind. They playing tricks on your mind, and that's really witchcraft when somebody constantly has you in psychological warfare. You're constantly in psychological warfare. That's basically what you see over there in the United States, because a lot of people have mental illness, and because of this narcissism, because of these psychopaths. Again, they're just using all this dark psychology, and so that's why people got a lot of these mental illnesses. Okay, because of these spirit dark psychology. And like I said, when you understand demonology, you understand more about psychology. You can't separate it. You can't separate it. You cannot separate psychology from spirituality, because psychology itself means the study of the soul. Okay. And once you start doing your shadow work and start listening to your inner dialogue, these tapes replaying, these are how these spirits get inside of you with these negative thinking, these negative tapes that play in your head. And that's why I tell people too, if you know this is happening, you need to get up in the morning listening to affirmations. You need to get up in the morning reading something inspirational, because we need to reprogram. And this needs to be done by yourself, getting used to programming yourself. Because see, you got some people out here, they can tap into their ashe. They can start already building their spirit up and talking to their ori. You got some people that want you to pour into their ori, and that is vampiric. They want you to give them everything that you have inside of you. They want you to give it to them. They got to look for inspiration. They got to do this. They got to do, because they can't give it to themselves. And again, that's gonna let you know what frequency you on and the work that you need to do. Okay. Book you recommend for demonology? Oh gosh, I got so many over there. Uh, I just don't have any recommendations. I do have some books over there for demonology. But I don't have one I can just recommend. I'm sorry, Red. I don't have one I can recommend. Okay. But I do have some over there. Uh, I don't know. That's just such a for me, that's such a sensitive topic, because if you're not ready for that, you know, and you don't know what you're getting yourself into, people can mess themselves up. And I'll probably be a minute before we really touch on that subject of demonology. But that's what demonology is it is the study of the shadows of the mind. That's basically what, and everybody have them. Some of them are innate, already in us. Okay. That's why when you do shadow work, a lot of people, you think you got to get away from the shadow. No, because you need your shadow. Your shadow help you survive. Now we need to accept it and start integrating it. Okay. And two, looking at demonology from another perspective as well, because a lot of these demons they say were demons, they're not even, just because they wasn't Christian or whatever, they deemed them demons, and some of these demons are not that. Okay. So breaking that down too. Like I said, when you're studying this, you'll have to slow down and really look at the attributes of these spirits, and you decide for yourself what they are to you. Okay, because you got some spirits too. When you look at some of the Goetia, which we're gonna go over that uh as well. But when you look at some of the Goetic spirits, a lot of the Christians say they evil, but when you look at their attributes and what they do, they're not evil at all. It's because that these spirits were culture spirits, significant to a culture or ethnic group. Then you have the Christians deeming them demons, and these spirits are not demons. So you'll find that over there too. Okay. And you have some demons that are very highly intelligent. But again, looking at the attributes, and again, you have to pay some of these spirits. When we go start talking about the Goetia and really stepping out of things, you have to pay them. And so be willing to make that payment. Have you ever divined with pennies before? Nope, I've never divined with pennies before. I've done pendulums, uh, I've done cards, I've done dowsing. I didn't like the dowsing that much. Didn't like that current. Oh wow, I didn't know they were not demons. You got some, yeah, you got some spirits that they deem. That's why I say you have to slow down and read that, okay? Because some of the spirits they have listed as demons, they are not demons, okay? Just because they belong to and you'll see it in Catholicism too. You know, the Catholicism, they'll try to dismiss some of these ancestral spirits, but the culture that are there are Catholic, because most of them was folks in Catholicism, they still they still honor these ancestral spirits, and the Catholics could not stop that because again it was embedded in the culture. But because they're not Catholic or Christian, you see the same thing that's going on with Santa Muerte. Okay, she's not particularly Catholic, but yet she has been adopted into with some of the people that practice Catholicism. Now I heard they was thinking about going ahead and making her a saint, but I'm not sure about that. Bloodline spirits are highly demonized. Dragons, for instance, yes, yes, yes. So they do that with ancestral spirits and bloodline spirits. They will try to demonize them because again they can't really control them. If they can't take total control of that spirit, then again they're going to demonize them. So again, really slowing down, making sure you do your research before you call on these different entities and knowing who they are. But then you got some of them in there, they you got some of them in there, you got they are volatile. Okay, they are manipulative. You got some in there that are manipulative, that are volatile as well. And so you just can't be up in there saying anything or not have your intentions together because you could be swayed. Okay. Again, that's another one that's been demonized. And Lilith is not evil. Okay. There's a lot of more attributes to her as well, especially when it comes to the divine feminine. Lilith wasn't per se evil, but that she's been given that rap. Depending on what you're using her for. That's just like when you look at voodoo, there's two aspects to some of these voodoo and deities. Okay. You got Azarli Frida that loves love. She does relationships. She's good with bringing love into your life, just good things in your life. That's Azarli Frida. Then you have the flip side of Azarli Frida. You got Azarli Dantor. but she don't play about women and children. She'll get you. Okay. So that those you see and again, that's in our personality too. We got a personality where we can be good, be nice, and then we got the other side too. If we need to put in that work, then yeah, we'll put in that work. So again, understanding the attributes had of these spirits and their other sides. It's in astrology as like what we shame or hide. Yes. So again, working with the energy and see they have demonized, like I said, some of these spirits, and they are not evil at all. It's because some, like I say, some of them are ancestral and they can't fully control them. Then they'll go ahead and demonize them. Okay. But again, when you get over there in a conjure, I'll break all of that down and kind of slow it down because I that on that when you're doing that type of work, you should slow down and research before you start casting your circle and calling in spirits and things like that. Slow down, do your research. You know, don't go to just calling on stuff because you see somebody else doing or somebody else talked about it. Your experience is totally different, and sometimes your ancestors don't even want that for you. You're just doing stuff. We're doing stuff because we're seeing somebody else. And like I said, you can work with ancestors, saints, other ancestral spirits, and never ever, have to go to conjure. Is it a need for it? Sometimes it is, depending on what you trying to do. Okay, but definitely be should be grounded in ritual, be grounded and know more about ceremonial magic, how to cast a circle, how to stay safe in that circle, uh, and how to stand in your power when you're calling on these other spirits. Hopefully, you would never have to do that, you know, because there's so much to be done on the side when it's working with ancestors. You may not ever, but if that does happen, let your ancestors guide you on that. But it's good to stay educated on it. Okay. It's good to stay educated on it. Does anybody else have any questions? Because we covered a lot here. We've covered quite a bit here. Now, if you're interested in learning hoodoo and all its spiritual components, because like I say, we break it all the way down so you can understand it where you don't have to keep breaking bloodline spirits and demon. Okay, I read that. Uh, we break it down so you are not just getting little bits of stuff. We break it all the way down so you can understand why. And believe me, you're gonna have a lot of aha moments. You're gonna be like, "Oh my gosh, that's why we do that. Oh my gosh, now this makes more sense of why I should be doing it that way." Or you are gonna be saying, "Oh, that's why that didn't work because I didn't do this right here. But now that I have this information, let me see my results now that I implement that." So it brings things together. So if there's any gaps that you have about hoodoo or you don't understand the spiritual science behind the Psalms, why we do the Psalms and how old the Psalms really is, because they go beyond the Bible. They really are. They go all the way back to Kemet, especially when we start looking at the names. If you're wanting to know, again, the components to that, get over there. There's a lot of knowledge in there. In 20 minutes, learn more than I heard in 15 years. Thanks. You're welcome. Magic of Husai. Okay. So again, if you're interested in learning, having a great foundation and you don't want to have to wonder. You want to better understand your ancestors. You want to have rituals because you're going to that altar now and you probably don't know what to do. You don't understand that you have to do ancestors work. You don't know how ancestors work look like. You don't know the rituals you should be doing with your ancestors, get over there. Okay? Because there should be rituals and things and prayers and stuff that you should be doing with your ancestors and sitting at that altar. There should be consistent rituals going on to build up your ashe and your power. If there's no consistency going on there, you're not going to get very far, not on your spiritual journey. It takes consistency. It is a way of life. It's no fly by, let me grab this type of thing. Oh, wow, I didn't know. Okay. Anyone have any questions for me? And if you're interested in learning the tarot the right way, um, which I'm really real, that's thing right there. I'm really grounded and real rounded in. If you're interested in that, we will be doing our first workshop on the 27th of this month. And that's going to be the ritual and conjure tier. Okay. We're going to have a series of that. You say, where do I go from here? Start where you're at. Um, a really great thing that I offer, like I said, the spiritual blueprint, where you look at your chart and you'll see all the work that you need to do based on your astrological chart, your natal chart. So that really gives you a head start and really, tell you what you need to be doing, or just start with your shadow work. Up to you. We have books and information up there. We're doing shadow work with your ancestors. So we have a lot of resources on that. And then the ancestors, it's not complicated, you guys. Ancestors work is not complicated. All you got to do is sit your butt down and talk to your ancestors and listen and be quiet. Stop talking about what you want. You know, they focus out. They really work well out of gratitude. Okay. When you already thanking them for what they doing right now, and tell them about your dreams and about your goals. What's your intentions? Again, you have to spend time with them. Be consistent. Put some ashe on that altar. Pray for them. Stop asking for stuff and then you don't want to put no work in. That's not fair. That's not fair. Then you want to get mad at them because they not doing what you want them to do. But hell, you ain't doing what you need to do. And your ancestors is not your dogs. You don't be sicking them on nobody. They want you to be quiet. Just sit down and be quiet and listen. Because that's a lot of what you'll be doing. I promise you won't. If you're a real practitioner, you won't be coming here that much. You probably won't be wanting to come here that much. I have a hard time coming here and posting. I really don't say nothing until my ancestors tell me. Okay? A lot of what you be doing, you be shutting up, not saying anything. And that brings a lot of power in your work. It's getting you in alignment and keeping you clean. All that gossip and all that other stuff, you kind of keep your mouth off there because you don't want to taint your work and you don't want to cross up yourself. And that's a lot of what sometimes be messing up your work. You on the phone with your friend gossiping about somebody else, just putting all kinds of nasty, stinky stuff on yourself because you want to stay on the phone to gossip. You want to run with these folks and do all this. And really, again, that's witchcraft. Keep your mouth off people. Focus on yourself. You got so much going on with you that you need to fix. You don't got time to be pointing at what somebody else got going on because you got some lineage healing to be doing. And you is not trying to get yourself crossed up in that no more. Okay? So a lot of just changing your habits of what you putting in your spirit, what your entertainment, the whole spiritual diet change. You probably won't even be resonating with people the same way. Some of them you find out you got friendships because of trauma. Y'all bonded by trauma. There's no really friendship there. Y'all friends out of survival. There is no benefit there. This like I said, this is a way of life. Sometimes it's lonely for some people because a lot of people are being influenced by by these spirits. Okay. So yeah, this is a way of life. You ain't ready for hoodoo because you can't be doing all that gossip. You can't be in nobody's business. You can't have your mouth on everybody. Again, there is a type of spiritual purity you must have to be working with your elevated ancestors and doing this work. Like I say, this ain't witchcraft. This ain't that. I tell people they think that too, and this is closed. Yeah, it may look like what you doing, pale face, but this ain't that. Okay, because as we go deeper with that, we're working with ancestral spirits. We got some ancestors that absolutely didn't like pale face. Hell, I got family members like that. I could talk about what is my cousin name, honey. And my cousin, i- her brother-in-law had bought this guy home from his job. He was a pale face. He brought him over to the house, and my cousin, she just absolutely don't like paleface. I mean, she just don't like them. You have ancestors like that. My grandmother was like that. She just absolutely didn't like them. She just didn't like them, and she have every right to feel the way she feel because she's seen them do things. Okay, and so the paleface, he was sitting over there, and my cousin was got uncomfortable, and so she called her brother-in-law and said, "You need to come get this boy because you know I don't like them. I don't like them. He's been sitting here too long." you know, she was absolute. She said that right in front of him. She said, "He's been sitting here too long. You know I don't like them. Come get him. Come get him out of here." So again, you have this is why this is closed. You got some ancestors that just absolutely do not, they didn't talk to them. They don't like them. Okay. And they have a good reason for that. So again, this is why this is closed. Some of the atrocities that was caused to our ancestors. Okay. So you have some like that. I mean, I had a grandmother like that. She couldn't stand them. She could not stand them, you know. So that's why this is closed. So you get over here and mess yourself up, and you trying to do this ain't that. Okay, you got your own folk magic, you got your own way you do stuff. Do that. Do that, you know, do that. But this is closed. So I have to make that absolutely clear. Because you got some, and they rise up at me sometimes. I got them ancestors to rise up at me when I see uh them doing things, some oppressive things. Then I have to speak up and be like, no, you're not gonna do that because my ancestors, hey, they fought too hard for that not to happen to me. So I'm gonna open up my mouth, and you absolutely can't do that with me. So again, this is why it's closed. And I get a lot of people. I've seen people say is hoodoo. It's not closed. It is if you're over here. I don't know what type of hoodoo you talking about. Maybe your hoodoo is not closed. Y'all calling stuff hoodoo because I don't know, trying to stay relevant with us. I don't know why you're doing that. I call them pale face. SK. I call them pale face. PALE. Pale face. Okay. Want to be careful with how I'm wording that. But if you're ready to really dive into ancestors work, because that's the grounding part of it, and you ready to get rooted in your hoodoo and you ready to do the work, then yeah, you can come over. You can come over there. If you think hoodoo is some type of it's gonna happen tomorrow type of thing, that's not that. You actually gonna do some work. Okay. If you think that you're not going to have to pour into yourself and ignite your own ashay, then hoodoo ain't for you. We have to know that our ancestors, we have to do the work. In order for us to, our ancestors support us, we have to do the work. They just not going to do stuff for you and you sit on your butt. They not going to do that. Okay. So if you ain't getting up in the morning, you ain't doing your ritual, you ain't doing being consistent at your rituals, you're not doing the work, then don't expect nothing to be done. It's closed. There was a practitioner that said some ancestors taught white people back then. Is that true? The only way I could see that being passed on, because it's ancestral. I think I forgot where I talked about this before. Only way I could see it being passed on like that if that person was adopted into that family. And that can happen like that, be passed on. I have seen where uh they have adopted a pale face in the family, and that can happen. And they can pass it on that way if that person is in the family. Now I've seen that happen like that because of that pale face have their family now. You know what I'm saying? If they get adopted in their family and that family is taking care of them and supporting them, yeah, I can see it being passed on that way. I definitely can see that. Okay. I don't know if is there a better. I don't know. Is there a better a word than Deej's magic? I don't know. I don't know. It can definitely get passed on that way. I've seen it. I think I was seeing this man, he was adopted by this black family since he was a little boy. That's all he saw. He saw that's what they did. That they did hoodoo in front of him. And so it was passed on like that because he got immersed in the culture. It got passed on to him. And so I think this woman was like his mother, his adopted mother. It got passed on to him. So yeah, you will see it. You'll see it go that way too. I'm sure you'll see a lot of that. Those Creoles and stuff in there in Louisiana, you'll see it like that too up in there. Because I think they got some people there that inherited it as well. Again, but it's passed on to family to family. Like you can have some family members that's never did hoodoo. And then you go to a family, you go to the other side of the family, you see them doing hoodoo, and bam, they done passed it on to you. They got you doing that. It's just that simple. Because if you're in Africa diaspora, you come in the proximity of family, and they take you in like that, they automatically pass it on to you. That's just how it works. Or your like my grandma did us, like she automatically passed it on to us. I didn't know nothing about hoodoo or root work, but again, they were doing that on us. So it got passed on. You see how it get passed on in the family? It's familiar because you'll start seeing it and it just it gets passed on just like that when you start seeing it or they using it on you to help you. Okay. And it's again, I think who was talking about that? It was another content creator. He talks about hoodoo and he talks about the difference between bloodline magic and hoodoo and how it's closed. And he was like, "Well, bloodline is only so far you can go. It's going to be only inclusive in that family." He said, "But hoodoo, you're talking about a whole nation of people and culture. It can go on forever and ever. So that's how wide hoodoo is. Okay." It when it goes ancestral, just like I said, it went again, connected us through ancestors. Okay. But you could definitely pass it on. If you have somebody that get adopted by us or whatever, and they in our family, I mean, you kind of see that culture exchange go down with the Native Americans too. How a lot of them got um, born into hoodoo as well. Okay, a lot of them cross married with some of the Africans. And that's how we got hoodoo. Then you have the European influence as well that was centered around Christian mysticism or Jewish mysticism. Christianity they got up in there as well. But the what makes hoodoo what it is because it's ancestral and because the way our magic looks. Okay. Now you have some other folk magic. They look at our stuff, and be like, "Well, that's this, that. We do that too. You might do that. We're not saying you don't do that, but this ain't that." Okay, we be led by our ancestors to do stuff. I don't know what you doing over there, but our protocols and the way we have this set up is just it's really different. Okay, so that's the important thing to understand. Anybody else have any questions? Want to chime in? Okay. We do have a new moon that's coming up. We got Saturn in retrograde. You're gonna probably hear me say this again. Please do your shadow work. If you got some court cases and stuff like that going on, you probably want to be focusing on that, working with some high John maybe. Okay. Working on boundaries. And then when you have that Neptune that's coming up, again, breaking down the illusions, making sure everything is clear. Uh, again, a lot of things you're gonna come out of delusion messing with Neptune. And that it's a good time too to be focused on doing some dream work with the ancestors. You want to stay in contact, magic of who say? You want to stay in contact with what? Hey, Wonder Woman '08. So if you're ever interested, like I say, I have services as well. I do readings. If you're interested in it, DM me. If you want a natal chart, again, DM me. If you're interested in our Patreon platform, it should be in our link tree in the bio. It'll get you directly over there. I do recommend if you're ready to really work closer with your ancestors, I recommend the ritual of the conjure. They're all affordable. None of them are expensive. It's not going to break the bank. That is not the idea here. This is my way of showing up for my community and sharing my knowledge and wisdom when it comes to working with ancestors and getting grounded in hoodoo, providing a safe community so you can learn it safely. Okay. And not, again, you can be confident in your work. You'll know how to do divinations. You'll know how to talk to your ancestors. It will not be complicated. It's going to empower you. I'm going to encourage you. I'm going to mentor you. Okay. So if that's something that you're interested in, you needing the support, you want some structure in your work, you really want to learn and know the components of hoodoo, then that's the place for you. Okay. You will see results. I'm already hearing somebody else getting results. I mean, she getting some awesome results over there. Was that Kay? Think that's Kay. She's working with her ancestors. She changed some things around and she got that information and she implemented, she's changed some things around and she instantly getting results. And sometimes that's all it takes. If you feeling like you disconnected from your ancestors or something missing, usually when you get that missing information and you change some things around, it improve your contact with your ancestors and it puts you back in alignment where you're trying to go. And sometimes that's all it takes. Sometimes we don't have the right information or we don't have things lined up. We know it's something missing, but we don't really know what it is. And so once you learn that information and then lines things back up, it puts you right back where you want to be. Okay. Especially when it comes to ancestors, you saying, I ain't talking to them. I'm not getting no messages from them. They not saying that. Well, how, that's first thing I'm gonna go into. Well, how consistent are you going there? What are you trying to do? You know, what are you doing, to elevate them? Okay, so those are the things I'm going to be talking about. What kind of rituals are you doing? What if you doing to be cleansing yourself and try to keep your self care up? What are you doing? So again, those are some of the things that you could be missing. That's why you're not getting any messages from your ancestors. Because you're not going there talking, and maybe you go in there and you go in there with the fluff. Don't go up in their face with that fluff and they standing up there looking at you. They created you. So ain't no sense of you going there uh with the fluff and make no, go on in there like you is. Okay? Ain't no sense in faking, shucking and jiving. Ain't no sense in doing that. With this fancy talking and I ain't just talk like I'm talking to you because they know you. Okay? So ain't no sense in doing that. Now, if you want to do something formal, do a formal prayer or a chant with them, fine. But the best results you're gonna get is when you just come and talk to them the way I'm talking to you. I assure you of that. Okay, and as you get more really building your ritual is really going to be when you're working with the angels and where we break that down, how to attract them to your table and start working with them. That's going to really improve your ritual before you even jump into conjure like that. Okay, working with saints, working with angels, so you will really know how to connect with spirits organically. Not talking to somebody else, trusting your own intuition and your mediumship because your ancestors going to be the first form, the first spirit you talk to. They're going to teach you how to be a medium. You become a real medium. Talking to your ancestors, they're teaching you that. They're passing those gifts back on to you when we go to talking to them. And then trusting your intuition. All of this works together. Shadow work, ancestors work. It's not separate. It's all together. It's all together. I don't care what somebody telling you. You ain't gonna make no progress. Uh, not on your spiritual journey. You ain't doing no self awareness, especially in hoodoo. And if you ain't talking to them ancestors, trying to heal, trying to pray for them, you're not gonna get very far. You're gonna hit a block. You're gonna hit a wall. Okay. Anyone has anything to add before I disconnect the live? We got a lot of things going on over there, so I would try to keep you in the loop. Go over there, check it out. Check out our community. We always have something interesting going on. Great information. What else I want to say? Yeah, just go. Check us out. A lot of resources over there. And we have some workshops coming up. And I repost things sometimes to keep it on the front of your noggin. You might see some over there. It's like, did you just talk about that? Yeah, I just talked about that because I don't see you're talking about that and nobody's engaged in that post. I'm going to assume that you didn't see that or you're not wanting to take the information. So I'm going to post that again so you can keep that on the front of your noggin that that is a part of your practice. Okay, we can't just, some of the stuff we just can't leave out just because it don't resonate, just because we don't like it. Some of the stuff that the spiritual science and hoodoo are necessary. Now, ain't nobody gonna tell you how to do your work. Nobody's gonna, criticize you on there. But again, there are things that need to be done to keep you grounded in your practice so you'll have a strong foundation that is ancestral veneration, that is doing your rituals. I'm going to make sure I keep that on your noggin. Okay, and shadow work, you'll probably see a lot of that keep some of that recycle sometimes, and that's especially when I don't see you in the group chat and things like that. If I see you in the group chat talking about any of this stuff, then you'll probably see me post it again. Hi, Crystal Rose. I've been getting a sensing that dinosaurs, such alligators, crocodiles, are connected to African spirituality. I've been getting a sensing. Well, they say alligators and crocodiles are the oldest forms of dinosaur on the planet. That's what they say. And you do see that archetype, you do see that spirit animal in African indigenous spirituality. Have you or your community has similar thoughts? Uh, we haven't went into animals too far. Not really. Not right now. We haven't. But I do know that the ancestors will use nature to speak to us. And I know in Kemet, I think there was alligators or crocodiles. They were venerated. Okay. Even they even say to get if a crocodile or alligator attack you, it was an honor. That's what they said in Kemet. Okay, so they were venerated. I think they have a deity called Sobek. So that's what they say. I think that deity name is Sobek, Sobek, but it was a deity in there called Sobek, and they did venerate either it was alligators or crocodiles. I remember having that dream too, and that archetype starts showing up in our lives between I and my daughter. Just a crazy dream I had about alligators. It was just crazy. And then we start seeing these alligators uh start showing up in our life. They would be at the fair. We would go places and they would have these alligator farms and stuff. It was a trip. It was like for 5 or 6 years, these alligators. And I look back at those pictures. I was like, what was our thing with these alligators? Because we was taking pictures with them all the time. And I know I had a dream that my daughter was bit by an alligator. That's kind of how I found out that she had these abilities and and what was going on with her when it came to her development as a child. So there was something having that experience. But yeah, they are associated. You'll see that when you go into nature and you talk to ancestors and you have these certain animals that come forward, because sometimes ancestors, they speak through nature, they speak through trees, they speak through the land. That's why I encourage everybody to go out and sit next to that tree, see what you pick up. Sit on the land, talk to the land, because on the land, there are ley lines, especially near the rivers and waters. There's a current that is energy. Water is, especially if it's a river, is living water. There's a current flowing there. And so when you go on those ley lines and start meditating, again, you start interfacing back with mother earth, and then you can call on those ancestors that did the very thing that you're doing. Okay, I think people miss that. There are ley like That's why a lot of our ancestors, they did a lot of their rituals. They do it now in voodoo. They do it outside on the ground. Why? Because there is ley line and energy fields under the ground. There is water in a currency, okay? Water is electric when it moves, especially a river. It is living waters. That's why you'll hear that in the Bible all the time. Streams and rivers are living waters. Even when you go into the ocean, as people understand that when you go out to a park, especially near an ocean, you're looking at a whole organism that's alive. When you come in contact with water, everything is alive around it. It is breathing, it is living. It's important for you to understand that. And once it comes in contact with that water, and you'll see that everything living, if there's water by it, it's going to attract living things. So that whole environment is alive. And that water is just not flowing in front of you, it's flowing underground too, creating those ley lines that bring that electricity. The way my ancestor explained to me, because I was going out to the mounds, and what I was seeing is those mounds were so close to the Mississippi River, Arkansas River. And I was like, why is that? Why is that like that? And there's a lot of ley lines in in Arkansas as well. They was like, we have these, we made these mounds here because we did rituals and healing rituals there, and we were able to harness the currency, the energy off that river for healing purposes. With any type of spiritual work we was trying to do, we can use those water spirits, the energy from these spirits, to aid us in this healing. So that's why you'll see a lot of those, some of those mounds near water, okay, because they were using the electric currents off the water, because water is alive, okay. And in fact, when you go, like I said, when you go into a space where you're seeing a lot of water, that's just like Lake Lanier. Y'all put that water there now, it attracted, you made that alive. The ancestors is alive. Okay. They are alive. Now that water is alive. That park is a whole living organism now. And the ancestors can use that water as a medium to manifest themselves. Especially when you understand ancestral water, where they at, uh it's like a water, that the land of the ancestors where they rely is like water, ancestral waters. Okay, especially when you understand that. And then y'all unalive these people, and then you put water on top of it, and you didn't think they were going to inhabit the water. Water is alive. That you didn't think they were going to manifest themselves through that. That was just a crazy combination. And now you got our ancestors living in that space now. Okay. That's why I understand when people get in the water mindlessly, you going into a different world. You are no longer on the land anymore. You are going into a different world. People that go on these beaches and go out to the lakes or whatever, you're going into a different realm now. You're going in the realm of water. So no telling, what's gonna happen to you when you get on that water. I think that the people that can understand this the most would be sailors. Sailors will tell you it's certain things they have, they different superstition or things that they do that they just don't do on that water. Them sailors would tell you that we don't do that on this water. It's certain things they're not gonna let you do, and they live by that. They live by it because they know that world, that water, some crazy stuff happen on that water. So they're very careful about some of the things they do when they're out there selling. They have their taboos and their omens, and they follow that. Okay, because they know the power of that water. Okay, so again, kind of just understanding that everything is alive. Everything is alive. And I think once you can understand it in hoodoo, it really helps you tap into your magic. You see how much access you have to magic. Okay, once you understand that. But if you just think, everything is just meaningless and it's not sacred, it can kind of go past your head. But that's how this works because we know everything is alive. To my understanding, the recent flash flood in Texas occurred on ley lines that corrected to corrected to time sensitive astronomy. Okay. Again, they're again on their ley lines, and then you have ancestors too, because we are in this karmic cycle. Like what they say, we're in the nine cycle. There are a lot of ancestral experiences that's going to be happening here. Okay, you're gonna see the manifest. You're gonna see a lot of manifestations with that. A lot of manifestations with that, especially when it comes to ancestors and what's going on, around the world. So you're gonna see a lot of this crazy stuff is gonna kick up, ley lines that correlated to time sensitive and astronomy. Look at that. Okay. So again, if you can get if my thing too, if going to those sites and doing rituals as well near the mounds, because again, when you're connected with the mounds, you're connecting with those most ancient ancestors, though that pre-Columbian civilization, because a lot of us is already intermarry in America. If you can go there and start doing rituals and talking to the land, that really helped me connecting with those old historical sites where your ancestors resided at. That really helps you connect with your ancestors in an intimate way. So don't dismiss those mounds that you're in contact with. Going near, if you're near the Arkansas River, Mississippi River, doing rituals on the river, especially if you're a water sign. But doing our rituals outside, it just amplifies it that much more because that's how our ancestors did it. Okay, so if you can do rituals outside, do that as well. It's very helpful. Like I said, I'm gonna beat that in your head over there. You're probably gonna get upset with me. You can be like, "Oh, she always talking about ancestors. Oh, she always telling me to do this. She always recommended me to do this. She's always saying, yeah, I am, because that's what's gonna keep you grounded in your work." Okay. Now, if you need my help or something like that, I'll advise you on that. But any other time, your ancestors going to be giving you insight. I assure you that if you just follow the rituals, all you have to do is follow the instructions. That's it. Nothing outside of you. Do your work and do what you're supposed to do. You gonna get results. That's simple. That's simple. Your magic gonna get better and better. If you just do the rituals and stay consistent, you will see improvements. Probably faster than what you think. You probably just need to tweak some things now. You probably on the right track now, but you probably need to just change some little bit things around or learn a little bit more information to see more improvements in your work. And that's what I've been seeing with some of the people that's gotten over there. They was doing some stuff, but then when they got more information, when they got over there and they tweaked and they're like, "Oh, this is what I needed to be doing. This what happened when I made these improvements. When I implemented this, this got better." So some of us we right on the right track. We just need to move some things around and get more structured. And you might find that when you get over there. Okay. But it's there and it's affordable. You don't have to break the bank. You are going to get the understanding that you need there. There's a science there, and you would definitely walk away there understanding and being grounded in hoodoo. I assure you of that. I'm not gonna put no fluff on it. You know, I want you to be in contact with your magic. I want you to be strong. I want that for you. I know how important it is. All right. Anybody else got something to add? Anyone else have anything else to add here? Ask me some questions. Ask me anything. Another thing I think that's important, and I don't hear a lot of people talk about that in hoodoo. They make hoodoo it seem like it was just an isolated African diaspora system. When really, when we look at African diaspora as a whole and look at some of the spiritual systems, we understand hoodoo a lot better. Okay, and that's another thing we dive into too. We look at um, New Orleans voodoo. We look at Umbanda Espiritismo. So we look at those other African diaspora spiritual systems and see that helps us understand hoodoo a lot better when we look at the history of Africa diaspora spiritual systems. And that gives a lot of clarity too, gives you a better foundation of hoodoo. Okay. I think that's important because a lot of people miss that. They're so stuck on making hoodoo look Christian, and hoodoo is not Christian. It's not that. Okay. It is not Christian. I'm hearing, people make it sound like that, and it's not that, even though it may have some Christian components and our ancestors practices on the lie on the side of Christianity, it is not Christian. But yet you got some people they are spinning it like that, and it's not. And there's more to the Psalms than just saying them. There are actually esoteric, deeper understandings of Psalm, and we talk about that over there when we break down the secrets of Psalms. And a lot of y'all have the power of Psalms, that book by what's her name, Anna Riva. I think that's who wrote that book, or is it Catherine Ironwood? Anyway, I think it's two of those books out, but I think one of them is called The Power of Psalms, which those are good books. As I had that book for a long time, and I'm like, there's something missing out of these Psalms that we're not getting. I mean, yeah, they're telling us to say the Psalms, but there's got to be more meaning to it. And it's not until I read, and this is an old book. This book is old. Ooh, that book is old. The Secret Teachings of Psalms. It's not until we broke down that book and started looking at the Jewish mysticism and the esoteric meaning in the Psalms that it gave me greater context of why we use the Psalm. And then it was like, aha moment happened, you know. And so I said, this is why we do this. This is why we do this. This is why our ancestors had stuff marked up in them Psalms like that. And then there's names in there that you don't see anywhere else. Okay. So I thought that was very interesting too, knowing more about the Psalms. Another thing that's important, I think, is that it's important for you to interpret scripture for yourself. People can give you a scripture, but if that scripture doesn't resonate with what you have going on, then find one that resonates, because the one that you find your ancestors lead you to will probably be the one that works. So this is not a one size that fit all either. That's why it's good to study these Psalms, study for yourself, see what it means to you, and then apply it to your workings. No one can interpret the scriptures for you. That has to be done for yourself. Okay. All right. Anything else? Did anybody got something else to add before I shut it down? I'm so glad that everybody came to the live stream today. I hope that you gained some type of insight with the things I shared here when we talked about the Madamas, when we talked about the variety of ancestors, where you have a lot of choices when it comes to ancestors. You get to choose. It's like, picking a garden and tending to your garden. You get to choose all the beautiful fruits and vegetables that you have in your garden. So you can choose. Okay. We break that down. You can even have boundaries with those ancestors that you don't want there. This is your spiritual court. These are your spiritual allies. You get to choose. I haven't researched it yet, but I think my intuition is bringing me attention to Judaism is a stolen African mysticism. A good book to read is The Africans Who Wrote the Bible. You are on to something. I think that book will be very insightful for you. Is The Africans Who Wrote the Bible. And you'll see that too when we go down, because again, I go to the origin of everything, spiritual and beyond African's mysticism. You'll see that most of these are going to lead back to the divine feminine, that these men learned a lot of these spiritual systems from these women, and they created religion and inserted themselves in religion, because the spiritual science was already dominated by the divine feminine. And so you'll see that too when you're looking at the Hermetic order and you looking at Freemasonry. What did they always do? They focus on phallic worship. Okay, they say they've changed it to phallic worship when really it was really about the womb. This was womb work. Okay, this was connected with the divine feminine. And when you go into Jewish mysticism and Judaism, again, they try to take out the divine feminine, but they had to create Kabbalah to correctly reach the most high. They have to connect with Shekinah glory, okay, on their Kabbalah tree, on their tree of life. So, it's so crazy because you tore all of that down to do phallic worship. And at the end of it, you still have to talk to the divine feminine. So I don't know why you even did that. It's just crazy. And you'll start to see that with Islam too. Like before there was Allah, it was Alat. There was no Allah. And if you look at the things that Muhammad did, the atrocities, uh, along with I think with Islam and with Christianity, they did so many atrocities trying to set in these patriarchal religions. Uh, the things that they did to women and children to set that up. Okay. Especially when you look at the Christians, they did some things, but Islam, it got fanatical over there. He got a little fanatical over there. And they leaves a lot of this history out about these patriarchs. But again, I break that all down. Thank you. Yes, African woman is the Genesis. Yes. Hi, Didi. You're welcome. So again, I break that all the way down. So again, you need to know the origin because I see a lot of hoodoo. I don't think our ancestors had the opportunity to really decolonize hoodoo and look at the misogyny in it. Because again, you go to losing some of reading some of these occult books, and it just they letting you know that they got this from the divine feminine and that they changed it and applied it to themselves if you're reading this stuff. At this point, I think all the religions are just reinterpretations of African mysticism and the genius of creation. Yeah, that's again they got rebranded. They got rebranded and then you look at all of them, they come from older indigenous society because everything started off from shamanism at first. It's how these women started. That's why when I look at the Zohar, they're saying that Kabbalah is based off the Zohar. But the more you look at Zohar and you look at their mystical experience, this sounds like shamanism. Sound like you was doing some type of ritual and they did keeping that. I don't know if y'all taking some type of psychoactive something, herbs or something to have these mystical experience because some of the stuff they're experiencing, they're talking about you can only experience in the astral realm, especially when you go to talking about these prophets and these dreams that they're having. What are you guys doing? Especially you look at the Zohar, and I think they like to keep that out but you can kind of see a lot of it when you uh, look at some of the Gnostics, because the Gnostics, to me, they try to keep some of the old traditions. And again, what are the old traditions connected to? These AKA so-called pagans, again, matriarch, matrilineal, spiritual sciences. Again, they talk about Pythagoras a lot. These mathematicians, but that names come from women. Pythia itself, you know, is an indication that that comes from women, that they're learning this, all these math and geometry stuff. They're learning this stuff from women. Okay, Genesis, pardon. Tahihi. Okay. That's okay. So again, when you go to looking at the origins of this stuff, and I think it's good, and just stop taking it for face value. Really understand where it comes from and where the power really comes from. So I break all of that down to make sure it's decolonized. You understand what is going on there. It's like I said, some of that stuff, is totally for phallic. You see a lot of phallic worship going on there in some of those occult books. And that's what Freemasonry's about. Freemasonry separated. There were a whole bunch of men that got together that didn't want to be for their own reasons. I don't know. I don't know why they didn't want to, rock with the Christians or the Catholics. They created their own organization that is all about phallic worship. That is Freemasonry. You don't see the Eastern Stars coming into later, and even the Eastern Stars usually have a Masonic lodge that they're up under. And all of that stuff is nothing but bastardized Egyptian ceremonies. It's been bastardized, it's been watered down to fit their agenda. They have blasphemed a lot of it because y'all sitting up there wearing an apron and talking about my son. And again, that is to really, it is offensive to the Most High because again, you're doing a lot of blaspheming the divine feminine and the atrocities that you call upon your whole lineage, when you do that. So, if you're not educated about it, it's so easy for, you know, men to fall up in there because again, you got this Jesus. They done told you Jesus was God, and now these men, they go up in there and they even have a person in there acting like he God. But then why he doing that? Because the Holy See do the same thing. The Holy See act as God. Y'all putting in the Holy See acting as God because they post these posts supposed to be descendants of Peter or Paul. You see how they do it in the Masons again. Y'all still doing phallic worship. You understand me? But the Freemasons took it a little bit further, and they start creating these, this idolatry goes on in there. Okay, and then the Christians want to get mad at the Freemasons, but you created them. You created them. So if you got to get mad at them, you have to get mad at yourself because you started all this blasphemy. Okay, you started it. So y'all, it's like the lesser evils here. So you can't get mad at them. How dare you change some stuff. You want the Freemason to stop, you stop the line. You open the door for it to be corrupt. So if you stop, maybe they'll stop. Okay? Because you started the line. So, like the Christian church that say we don't we don't condone Freemasonry, but you opened the door for it. And some of your priests and stuff are Freemasons. They started out like that. Okay. Took these rituals from Kemet, ancient Kemet, and from some of these women, and y'all sat there and bastardized them and applied it to yourself, and then you even made up other gods or whatever idolatry that you want to serve, and you just bastardized that and messed that all up. That's all y'all did. Y'all took a whole bunch of books and y'all couldn't wait to mess something up. You couldn't wait to do that. And then people are starting to wake up to the divine feminine. Even some of these men, you hear them saying, "Well, we can't wait till y'all get back in order because this is whack." You have some men that's doing their work and they see the craziness that's going on with this. You know, so like I said, they are wreaking even in these churches, these people don't know why they miserable. They don't know why they keep they ain't getting ahead in their spiritual growth. They not growing. They are spiritually ignorant in some of these churches, and that is because you got a lot of these Freemasons in the church. And I think another one of them is a prime example is the Nation of Islam. A lot of people don't want to look at that, but Farrakhan is Boule. He's put that's right there in your face. He got all the symbolism right there in your face. Okay, he's letting you know he is Boule. A lot of them is Boule. They done sold out all their people. Now, if that man was like he was supposed to be, uh, and doing what he's supposed to be, hell, it's supposed to be like Burkina Faso over here. If that man was really grounded in what he really believed, it should be like Burkina Faso. Black people shouldn't be worried about anything. Uh, it would be more structured to that they have so much further, but he's not worried about that. He's Boule. Hope that's making sense to you. Jesse Jackson, Boule. Jay-Z, Boule. Beyonce, Boule. I can go on with this. I can go on and on with this. These celebrities that they put in front of you, most of them are Boule. They don't care nothing about you. They have sold out their ancestors. They are doing these rituals. Okay. And so when you don't have no spiritual understanding and you don't know, you can fall for anything. Like what my mom used to say, if you don't stand for something, you're gonna fall for anything. So where you stand. So just because you see them doing some of the rituals may look like us, but they do something else when they go into those lodges. And you don't even want to know. You don't even want to know. Most make sense. I'm from New York City, so different lingo. So you wanna know what boule mean? Let me spell it in here for you. Okay, I put it in the chat for you. Boule. Boule is like the black part of Freemasonry. They are secrets. They keep the secrets of the king. They're not gonna let you know uh, that this is all a plan to keep the masses distracted and controlled like sheep. That's what the boule do. They keep the secrets of the king. They're gatekeepers. Okay, just like you see that stuff going on with P Diddy. Anybody that had to get a record deal or whatever, they had to go through him and deal with all that mess. Okay, they had to deal with a whole bunch of his stuff. So you'll see a lot of them do that. So a lot of these people, they're not talented or anything else. They're willing to serve the agenda, and their boule. And so you'll see that as well. Believe me, they're selling them out. You got a lot of ministers like that in these big mega churches. They just want money. And like I said, I got my own theory. I think that, Freemasonry took over Hoodoo in the church. They took out the power. That's just my belief, you guys. You might have a different opinion about that. But I don't know, like I said, I don't know when that Jesus became God. But that's what the boule is. And nobody's gonna come back and save you. Ain't nobody gonna do it. There ain't nobody gonna do it. If anybody do it, it's gonna be your ancestors. They've had the opportunity to do it. You're gonna have to save yourself. And that's what Hoodoo gonna help you do. Save yourself. Okay? Because we wrestle not with flesh and blood. We are dealing with principalities and these spirits. We're in total spiritual warfare. And so that who got the power? The ancestors got the power. A lot of them done shamed a lot of our ancestors getting into that mess like that. Then call curses upon generations. Okay. All right, you guys. I'm gonna talk to you guys a little later. Uh, If you need to reach out, DM me. Let me put my email address in this chat here, or email me. But if you're on TikTok, go ahead and DM me. If you're interested or you have questions or you're interested in booking a reading, um, me looking at your astrological chart, or what else is what we got going on? I think that's it. Okay. And if you're interested in joining our Hoodoo community, it should be in my bio link here on YouTube. YouTube is in my bio link there, and it's in my link tree here on TikTok. You're welcome. Thank you for showing up, Black Opium. I appreciate all of you guys. And I'll be talking to you again. Good night, you guys.